Just hooked up and running good, and it is. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, another start of the work week, school week, second day of the week, but it is Monday, and we have to have a good mindset, right, to continue on with a great week. Probably started on Sunday. But anyways, good morning, everyone. This is Carol, so AKA Naughty Boss, live with you.
Sisters, good morning, everyone. Excuse me. This is Janis, aka Wellness Diva 5.0. And speaking of Monday mindset, I just want to share that I will say that my mindset was a little off. So I said to myself, as I'm obviously up very early every morning, got up about 4:30. And I just felt like I was in a muck. So I want to talk about a mindset muck. When you're in that muck, guess what? The only one who can get you out of that muck is yourself. So I look for inspiration. I journal about it. And then it came to me. And I don't have my journal with me, but I had found, excuse me, this amazing quote. And basically, what it says is we can control our thoughts and our emotions, and we can stay there, or we can take charge of it and feel better even for getting to that point. So my point in telling you this is, yes, we are wellness professionals. We do this on a daily basis, but we have our own little mucks every now and then. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I formulated a plan and I feel so much better. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, well, that was a great share, Jan, and that is true. We go through times where knowingly we know we are in the muck, and then there are times when we knowingly don't know we're in the muck. And I'm going to give you for instance on that. I mean, there's certain things that obviously come up that will derail you from a positive mindset, will derail you from, starting off that day bright, early, ready to take on the day. Because sometimes there's outside forces, which really solidifies the fact of what we try to drill with everyone continually every day, that we're not in control. Ultimately, we're not in control of a lot of things. We're not in control of what goes on in our world. We're not in control of someone else's mood. We're not in control of someone else's behavior. We're not in control of what's going on in our community. And sometimes within our own family dynamics, sometimes we're just not in control of that. But the things that we are in control of is how do we either make a conscious choice to remove yourself from the things that you're not in control of that might be impacting your mindset, or find avenues within that muck that will get you out of the muck, whether it's crawling out, whether it's running out, whether it's jogging out. So a perfect example, and there's things in life, certain milestones that happen in someone's life that puts them in that muck. And, obviously the one that comes to mind is our dad's passing, which yesterday was a year ago. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we always talk about, even as when you have a child, right? All the first you celebrate, their first coo, their first real eye contact, their, discovering their toes, their fingers, their face, that first step, that first time they're eating food. So all these different milestones come up within that child's first year of birth. Well, the same applies for someone that passes away. You go through all those first milestones of the first year that person is not present in your life anymore, whether it be holidays, their birthday, your birthday, maybe a memory of a family vacation, could be an anniversary, could be, a multiple of things, and especially obviously the first anniversary of their passing. You go through all these emotions that kind of, will put you in that muck. And I have to say, the 7 days leading up to it, really, I struggled with, every day, because of, some of the blessings, which I think are blessings, not some, they are blessings of social media, is when media, things that you posted come up from a year later all the way back to, I don't know what it's 12 years or however long it goes. So almost, subconsciously we relive, for most people, you kind of relive those last 7 days of, where were you? Were you with that loved one? Were you far apart? Were you feeling that struggle because you couldn't be with that person, whatever it may be? I love to document things, what's going on in my daily life and anything that's important, because that is one of the pieces of social media that I do love, is that you can always go back to really getting an outward kind of description and reflection of what your inside mind was thinking at that given moment. So it's kind of like twofold, like, you wrote those words. Now you've had a year to digest them subconsciously, because you don't always remember exactly what you said at every given moment. And now a year later, you get to reflect on your mindset. You're like seeing it from a different perspective. You're seeing you, but from the outside in versus the other way around. So the 7 days leading up to that, obviously memories were coming up, where I was, we were all together for, well, at least you and I were together for a good month plus. And then I flew home for a very short period of time. I think it was just 1 week, and then flew right back because Dad had taken that turn. And I didn't want to take the chance, because I had made a promise to him during that month that I was up. And it was the very first day that a lot of people don't realize. I don't even know that I even shared that with you. It's when the first day I arrived the month prior to him. And we were at that point, he was still in his bed. And he said, "Where are you going to sleep?" And I said, "Well, I'll sleep in the bed, the bedroom next to you, Dad." He said, "Well, no, why don't you sleep in the family room, the media room?" And I'm like, logically, I'm saying, well, does it really, there's just a wall in between us. But he wanted to know that, for his own maybe security, care, whatever, that, he knew where you were by the what do you call that thing? The speaker. What do you call that stupid thing? I can't think of what it's called. The, you know what I'm talking about? The speaker.
Yeah, his chair there. His reclining chair.
No, the speaker.
Oh, the baby monitor.
That's what it was. I couldn't think of the word. But anyway, so he knew, like, yeah, push a button, you were there. Maybe physically he knew I'd be in this, near there, whatever it was. And, I said, "Dad, don't ever worry." And then we kind of had that little talk about it. And he just said, "Just promise me, you'll be there." And I said, "Of course, Dad." He goes, no, promise me you'll be there. And I interpreted that as what it, he meant. And, I did promise him that. And as that 7 days, prior to his passing, or anniversary passing, I was reliving those emotions, but they were amplified in a different way, because I was reflecting what I was posting about and kind of interpreting to where I am right now. So I was not expecting getting in that muck. I mean, I knew the anniversary was coming up. We all did. We talked about it all the time. But you never know until that moment arises, really, how you're going to react to something. And whether it's this situation, whether it's, all of a sudden somebody comes suddenly ill, an accident occurs, something that totally jolts you, regardless of your mindset and how you think you're going to act, you don't always react that way. You don't always, and a lot of times, I would probably say 9 out of 10 times, your reaction is what you anticipated it was going to be. And that's kind of what occurred over this last week. Was I really struggled. I was deep, thick in the mud, felt like quicksand quite a few of the days. But, I'm so grateful and blessed that I think we all can probably list one gift that we have that you don't feel that you're being conceited about. And one of my gifts that I think that happens, I'm very open about my feelings. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I've never been closed of how I feel about any situation. For some people, that's a good thing. For some people, that's not a good thing. It depends on the individual. But for me, I don't like to keep things inside of me. I like to share them. And I share them. Some people, and you find this is true, some people share things because they're expecting the reaction. I share them more for almost documentation purposes of how I was feeling at that moment. But with doing my normal documentation of different perspectives, so many people, had reached out, and that was not the intent of why I was posting what I was posting, but it was nice to know that so many people cared and took their time out of their day, to text us, call us, send messages, FaceTime us. I was on the phone nonstop with both Mike and Tina, at any given moment, whether it's texting, phone calls, FaceTime, as well as getting little snippets of what the kids were saying. And a friend of that I've met, and I consider her a friend now, who also just literally lost her dad about a week ago, had reached out, and she must have ran into Tina and the kids, John, at church. So she's going through her own very raw and real mourning of her dad. And she said, oh my goodness, I ran into Reagan, and I believe it was at church. And Reagan had said, Reagan's our goddaughter, our granddaughter, said, oh, I wish heaven was in Florida. That way, when we go to Florida, we can visit Poppy all the time. And it was, just, out of the words of, out of the words from a babe, as that goes, really puts things in perspective of their innocence from their mindset. So you get a window of how they react, at 4 years old to losing their grandfather. Now, she lost her grandfather when she was 3. Now she's 4. So it's different. And they talk about Poppy all the time. We always make sure that his spirit is alive and that they keep remembering him, because we know, as you go through those things when you're younger, as the years go on, things fade a little bit. So, that was one of the things I said to Tina, please, have the kids watch the memorial, often, a couple times a year, maybe, to always connect, his spirit, because he was such a profound man, besides being a husband, dad, uncle, Poppy, but all that. He was just profound in his spirit, that I think I could probably count on one hand how many times I ever really saw him get very spirited or very angry. That just was not his nature. And I really try to reflect on, I'm sure we've talked about this, how Dad would think of things today as they are. So ironically, Mike had said, I guess the Patriots were on. And John and I, we've talked about this before on the podcast, that we don't watch sports anymore. Which is a tough thing, because we're big sports enthusiasts, but because of the climate that are at the games, and it's just, we want to watch a game and not have any politics involved in it. So Mike reminded me, he said, Poppy would be watching the Patriots. I said, you're right, he would. So I turned my alerts on at least. So I did that, because I know Poppy would want to know. Apparently the new quarterback of the Patriots did phenomenal, I guess, or did great. I don't know if all his stats, but so Mike was pretty impressed. He watched, and I know, Poppy, that's what he would have wanted. So I did make sure my alerts were on. So it was a tough day, but we connected, and, as well as the rest of the family, and with family and friends. And we had 3 great friends that spent the day with us. Started off with some pickleball, and then in the afternoon, we just were lazy river on the pool, and sang, and, chatted about life and all those good things. And they, I think, left about, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So it was a nice day to kind of ease into that. And I know you guys had a great day.
We sure did. We had a surprise visit on Friday evening, as Gary and I often do after dinner. We have our coffee and we play Uno. And of course, we were talking about the upcoming weekend. Obviously talked a lot about Poppy, and the phone rings and it's our oldest sister, Claudine. And she said, hey, you have any Sambuca? And I'm like, no, we just ran out. Well, do you have any coffee? And I'm like, yes. Why? I said, why do you want to know if I have Sambuca and coffee? Like, not just because we were in the midst of playing cards. And she says, oh, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? So that was such a nice surprise. And the next, just the whole weekend of being with family, and, we called our brother Fran, and he ended up coming over early Saturday morning. And so it was, and it stayed overnight. So it really was
Nice.
a nice weekend to connect and talk about Poppy and talk about relive all those great memories. And, I've often said this this past month, that a lot of things for me happen in twos within a year. And I'm not going to go into all that, but, I looked at these past few months, and for me, obviously people know that my son had a life-threatening injury. And those first 2 weeks were absolute doom and gloom every day, doom and gloom every day. But his progression, miraculous. So I came to the realization of probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, because I felt like this underlying muck, which is normal, I think, when you go through something very traumatic with your child. And I'm like, wait a minute, within a year, 2 major things have happened. As sad as it was to lose Dad, which is very heartbreaking for me and for all of us, it was such a miracle to witness him being accepted in the Lord's hands. Now, I've been with quite a few people, relatives, who have passed. This was miraculous.
It was.
And of course, the other thing was my son's progress. Miraculous. And even the surgeon said, Ryan, I want you to understand that 8 weeks ago, you had a life-threatening injury. And here you are 8 weeks later, miraculous. So Ryan looked at me and said, my mama keeps saying that. And so blessings in those very sad times are times that, really tug at your heartstrings. But that for me was not easy to come to. It was easy when it came, but sometimes, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, when you're in that muck, like you have to go through what you feel that you need to go through in order to get to the other side. So it's like acknowledging it, accepting it, and then how can we be better and move on by maybe reliving the event in a way that is a blessing. And those are 2 big blessings, major blessings within a year. So I am so grateful for so many things. And I just think it is miraculous that we both witnessed that event, our dad's passing, because I think about it and I get chills, because it was miraculous. Just the way you physically, I don't know how to explain it other than, and I hope.
Well, we'll give it just a little snippet, because I think that will help people's mindset in such a way. People always question their faith. They question the afterlife. Is there an afterlife? And since we were a little girl, just because of our faith and how we grew up being Christians, that was never doubted. But for what we witnessed, it solidified what we already knew, and it was almost like a rebirth of our own faith. So for those that don't know, I have put it in words on my own personal Facebook, and I'm going to give you a snippet, because this will help you with your mindset to know, especially if you're doubting what's beyond this life that we lead. Really, it happened over the last 3 minutes of our dad's life. Short version, new aide came over after he was washed, dressed, and kind of ready for his day, which we all assisted in. He looked cockeyed was the word I kept using, because his body just did not sit right within the bed. And our brother was in the front room. We called for him to come over and said, look, we need some assistance, even though Dad was very frail, and that point was probably only 80 something pounds, you know, literally, and I hate to use the word dead weight, but that's what he was. He was dead weight, trying to shift him around. So we really, our only alternative was to kind of pick him up. And because he was so fragile, we each had a part in where we were, you know, our hands were to help lift him up. And at that point, his eyes were closed. His color was really not good. It was very gray. His lips were very, very pale. And I think 2 days prior to that was the last time his eyes were open. But at that point, they were very gray and glossy. And part of the body preparing for that next phase, a lot of times the person will go blind, and you'll see this distinct color change. And our dad had the most gorgeous blue eyes. And I'm proud that I have his blue eyes, but his eyes were just beautiful blue eyes. So as we were lifting him, all of a sudden, and like I said, this happened literally in 2 minutes, probably less. The color of his whole body changed. Now the body that was exposed that we could see, obviously his hands, his face went from this gray to this very peachy, creamy color. Literally his cheeks revealed this beautiful, very faint, but beautiful rosy cheek look to it. And as we kind of lifted him up, his head, and I had the back of his head actually peered, you know, was facing upward to the ceiling, like he was looking, and all of a sudden his eyes just like opened up, and they were not glossy, they were not grayish looking. They were not only his beautiful blue, but they were just like crystals, and they like almost glistened. And he had this not huge smile, but this faint smile, as if like, and we knew at that moment, it was kind of like the three of us looked at each other. It was like one of those, oh shit moments, like, oh my God, like what, like what's, like, we knew what was going on, but like to witness it. And it was like, what do we do now? Kind of a feeling. But then we realized that literally, like, this is all seconds happening. You know, Dad, it's okay. Oh my God, you see the Lord, you see the Lord. And as we were talking to him, to, you know, really reaffirming, you serve the Lord. You serve the Lord on this earth. Go be with him now. Go be with Mom. And at that moment that we placed him back to the bed, and as soon as his head literally hit that pillow, and he didn't hit it, we gently placed his body and head down. The color went right out of his body. He, all of a sudden, his eyes went back to that closed motion, and that smile kind of went away. And, you know, he had a few more breaths at that point, but then, you know, he passed. And your body just doesn't do that. That's not a normal occurrence. And that was the true miracle. It's one of those things, like you always say, you have to witness. And I think we do a pretty good job at really sharing exactly what occurred. So imagine, you know, if you're holding someone's body and they're looking up to the sky, and they see something that pleases them beyond measure. And it's not like we saw this huge light. It was just his body physically changing colors right before our eyes. And it, like I said, it was a matter of, you know, a minute and a half, maybe. And, you know, and then he went back and he passed, and he moved on to the Lord. So in as much as at that moment, obviously, you know, those emotions that come in when you lose that loved one, especially a parent, especially a second parent, it's pretty intense. But to also be part of witnessing and it just reaffirming what our faith that we grew up through our dad and our mom teaching us about our faith and going to church and being Christians, it just reaffirmed what we already knew. But to physically know it, and God says that he always says, you know, and even humanity, you shouldn't have to see to believe, but sometimes you do, whether it's to reaffirm, whether it's to reset your mindset, whether it's to give you hope. And there are so many little miracles all around us every day. And I don't think we pause enough to make sure that our mind is open to let those little miracles in, because they do change your mindset. They do change the maybe the journey or the turn or the pivot that you're going to at that particular moment. So if anything that you get out of this Monday's Mindset podcast is just do that, be open to what's around you. And even if you're feeling a little down about something, or you don't feel like you have the right mindset, find ways to pivot, whether it be to pause, whether it be to listen to a song. Maybe it's just to stand outside for a few minutes and hear some birds chirping. Maybe it's to go walk with your pet, if you have a pet, a dog, whatever it may be. But because I promise you, once you do that and you make a conscious choice to try to change your mindset, all of a sudden you realize, I feel better. Things aren't so bad. I got through that. And it really is that even that moment that you come to that realization, that's a little miracle. It's a little stepping stone.
It sure is. And it just goes to prove that there's proof in the pudding, so to speak. There is truth in your faith. I don't know how to explain it. And like I said, every time I even think about it, I get the chills, but in a good way. Mindset Monday, how are you going to get yourself out of that muck? I shared with you that I was in a muck this morning. I feel so much better. And there's no muck, there's no more muckiness for today anyways. We go with the flow. We're raw, real, personal. What you see is what you get. Maybe a little spicy at times.
Gotta love the spice. If you're Italian, you gotta love the spice.
Absolutely. And on that note, my name is Janis, aka Wellness Diva 5.0. We will be on tomorrow for Tuesday Triumphs, but I am with TwoSistas,
and this is Carol, so aka Naughty Boss, live with my other half of podcast, Two Sisters, and we are blessed for what we do. We're blessed to share what we're passionate about, and we hope that sharing our own experiences by also offering you really ways to pivot around what you're going through helps you, because that's what it's all about, us paying it forward and being kind to other people to help them navigate through life and even just through the day. We will see you tomorrow for Triumph Tuesday. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.